What is beauty? What are the beauty standards? What is it that I see in the layers and insight from my perspective? I've spoken on young women and grown women in the landscape of the male gaze, establishing the status quo as it is, and then for the change of pace just to gaze at themselves. What became of them in question is to see the reactions of what the public eye perceives them to be and what the future means for the look to breed new trends, spring up more interest through the sponsors, the ads, the overall brand recognition kicking off with auditions to be seen. She's the beautician in the belly of the beast, shaping up to be the vocal point of the modeling world as we speak. What makes fashion a statement? What makes the image reflective? What makes inspiration a powerful force of influence? That is, only when being given a script. The rules, the guidelines, the steps to becoming the next big thing on the scene. She's walking the runway as the runaway sensation. All eyes are on her to make way for the rollout of the lineup to represent that part of the industry brought it to the fold as the whole preserves the ways of old. So what happens when she goes about the moves she makes on her own accord? Anything involving modeling, workouts, or dance, music, sports, gymnastics, or Olympians, acting, media, social media, content, influencer, any and every profession she finds herself in, the male gaze will still have a hold. She want to have a say so in rewriting the narrative that always placed her at the forefront for harassment, intentional or not, finally being able to own her story, determined to not be the victim of the byproduct and overnight activism. Instead, she's active in reclaiming the assertive survivor. She's being heard, not just being seen, even when taking the risks of putting herself out there. While she could easily be exhausted, frustrated at the fact that she needed to take some time away from the spotlight, away from the cameras once they've been shut off and stopped flashing frames. Her presence is everywhere for everybody to see. But the only real present she deserves is herself, her own mind, her own body, her own soul, and people who actually care about her well being. The real satisfaction of feeling comfortable in her own skin to liberate herself from feeling trapped at all. So, where does that leave the guys who's actually curious? Where does that leave me this time? As I'm looking through content and scrolling through news feeds, timelines, was I really attracted to sensationalizing compliments? Am I quick to try and hide this projection of my desires? Is this my nice guy persona in pursuit of my need of advances? Do I have a fetish? Do I have an addiction? Do I have a serious obsession with pretty faces from slim to curvaceous in high and low places? I mean, it's easy for me and any dude to be lured by the allure of ideal looks fed to me, us. Tight fitted outfits of the day, yet sometimes the sweats and the baggies come to play. The flow of the dresses that accentuates the message of persuasive assets to draw attention. The glow of the arms, legs to match the tension. Zoomed in on the moneymaker that make up her structure. And enhanced by suggestive lyrics for the pleasure to take command on the center stage or ease into a serenade that harmonizes, flows into her bedroom eyes. Soon towards the slow, loose threads of clothes, or just to forcefully strip away the outside woes that's between both. Tattoos that could reveal her naked truth. Every spot of ink on her person is her personality that silently screams, hold on to youth. She made herself the canvas to her emotional baggage, or in this case, the freedom to rely on her talents. Anymore, it's a woven catsuit to embody her gifts. Cosplays the role play to inhabit characters that names each anime and other sources of content to please an audience in her wake of popular culture demand. Even though ASMR that plays its hand throws its hat into the ring to challenge conventional events as the views makes sense. The rise to the cream of the crops, the lewd sessions at one's monetary convenience. Her choice of lingerie with stockings and stocking gloves that's been patterned, sheer, or fishnet to capture the love at first sight hidden by lust. Stroking male egos to weaken the tough exteriors. Men of culture, as every comment these days tend to say now. The way she applies the pressure of providing the great service for good measure every site and app that confirms the business of accessing endorphins. That's how she amuses her self delight for their gratification. The moves performed as seen in art, in any art form, when she's locked in every muscle, demonstrates her determination to entertain while accomplishing her best feats, to conquer her worst fears. Her journey through dance is a book of expression as she makes her first impression. She enjoys being in the mood for feeling her own rhythm, like how she practices alone, even when in front of a crowd. Every wave, every flex, every pop, every bounce, every shuffle, every shimmy, every double time and pivot in each movement speaks volumes through all parts of her figure. From the hard pulses to the smooth transitions, even yoga instructions and sports bring out the on and offline arenas of guys gawking and howling like wolves, hungry for their next fix. She's a feast for the sight on sight, only to later be searched and researched for sites just to be spotted out. Every mood, exploring her sexual, bisexual awakening, or multiple preferences through the toughest of times to make peace with a piece of her mind. From heavy leather numbers and light fabric visuals to showing the exotic unveiling of her face without words, her tears in the rain, experiencing her sensuality in the sun. So now what? The word curiosity suddenly triggers a word to sub in for creep? Or is it just me spilling a question unheard or unseen? Well, what I mean is this. Right here is my confession, if you will. To knowing my reason behind what I've asked at this point, the point of what I've seen. Lately, I've looked into what beauty could really mean past the entrapment of the public opinionated definition. This is my personal take on it. Even speaking on the things I disagree with, like having workout routines that's based on the work of product placement dietary supplements, taking pills or roids, or simply shooting up trying to exceed in performance, receive surgery or inject to maximize emphasis in specific proportions and dramatic face changes, wanting to perfect the image, selling her body to convince the underbelly while selling to the restraints of the masses and still persists. Even when a heavy dose of self inflicted harm to substance abuse, painful reminders that could easily take her from the heights of her rise to the inevitable downfall at the cost of her life. At the same time, I get it. Trying so hard to abide by the rules so she can eventually stand out on her own and be comfortable once more with her life moving forward. Every decision she makes is hers and hers alone. It's not like my words or anyone else's. Controls everything she does nowadays. And so, for the strongest performance given when putting on an act, there's a whole desperation convincing people through lies. And then there's the convincing of moving the audience through genuine emotion. When it's the latter, that's meant to be appreciation through stress. Cameras are rolling again, and now her influence has sparked conversation for the world to pierce into the lifestyle that was promised she shared. To be the it girl, to be that girl, is to color the scenes with instructions and tips on how to broaden your styles, your home and scenery, food choices, and travel while surrounding yourself with people who are mixed in with you. Her presentation through vlogs and edits that's meant to keep the pace going for all engagement. She's set on translating the reality TV or on-set drama for the ratings, debates, every back and forth, recorded on tape, who's playing the blame game, every finger pointed. The other, he said, she said nonsense. Who's beefing with who? Who's teaming up with who? Who would actually have the common sense to call out the fools? Till the docu-series tells all from her pages. What's really going on in her mind? Where's her mind really going? How was her mental and physical and emotional state? Why is she interested in preying on her victims when it's usually the men that gets pointed out for it? Missing or murder cases, kidnappings, identity theft, fraud. Many times it takes someone to get her here. And yet in others, she might even actually enjoy it herself more than anyone ever realized. Okay, so does this also mean that I've been a peeping Tom peeking into the windows of her life, an invasion of privacy, or just watching from a distance on how I'm fascinated with her provocative, triumphant, yet crucially disturbing to the attention and the vast options of occupations? Look, here's the answer. I look into all these things to point out the flaws in the zeitgeist, knowing that even with the things I disagree with, it's no disrespect, while at other times finding out what allows me to get a better understanding from her point of view. But beauty to me is not always putting in so much effort to show out personality. Motherhood and the street corners already shown. So to see that not every man's horrible, mind you, I like to see the natural aspects. I'd prefer to hear the authenticity. I would love to experience her as herself and not just perform it for the lenses, or at least show the masses and the competitive environment that inhabits the side that says the person, and ease up on the celebrity to open up. Also, to see her set an example, especially when she's trying to gear towards the next step as a moment in time to cherish. To the little girls in this day and age that are watching, that are listening, which could feel like the extra mile, but that's really the true satisfaction of accomplishment.